See, if it was me trying to implement a go-to-market strategy for this specific thing, what I would do is there are key people within Palantir who have been there for a really long time. They have
Yep.
this energy and this drive to do more, right? The problem is they have a very, from what I'm hearing, okay, they have a very like flat hierarchy. So what
Yep.
happens is a lot of times they have a problem retaining the talent because if you don't have that upward momentum, what's going to happen? Well, the talent tends to go out and do other things. Well, my thing would be, why
Big
aren't you
time, yeah.
investing in those people? Give them some money, do some VC funding, right? I would say Palantir Ventures, throw some money behind your former employees who know what the hell, they're doing, and then let them go wild, let them build products and sell it. And guess what? You reap the benefits of them becoming 5, 50, 30, like 50xers, right? Yeah.
Google went through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Google, when they built AdSense, Kim Scott wrote a really good book about this called Radical Candor. It's not about, that's not what the book is about, but she
Mm-hmm.
talks about that time during Google, and a lot of people left to create their own startups. They were ultra successful. We all know who they are. So like, that was right about the time people were saying Google had stopped innovating, which is kind of weird because some former Palantir employees have accused Palantir of the same thing. And Google restructured itself into a holding company in response to that.
Yeah.
And we've all talked about like splitting commercial and government. I think that's the wrong discussion. I think it's really about like forming a holding company, splitting up the commercial and government entities, but how do you then continue to innovate as a holding company and doing what you're talking about, which is empower those former employees, buy up the Andurils of the world, start really creating verticals in this space, especially with government, because government software and robotics and AI is like, this is going to be innovated for the next 100 years, like, or more. Like the shit that's going to happen is going to, like, you guys have no idea, because in the government space, they can proceed without any rules or regulation. It's going to affect the private sector, and if Palantir structures itself to be the Google of government and commercial, and also have their commercial arm, like they're going to absolutely destroy it. But you're right. They do need to do that. And it's something that Google had to go through. A lot of successful tech companies have to do that.
See, that's what shocks me. When I looked at Anduril, I thought that at least to some degree, Palantir would have thrown some money behind them very early in their,
you would think,
their
right?
development.
I would have thought,
considering half of, if you look at Anduril's engineers, right? First of all, their CEO is former Palantir, who was actually instrumental in building a lot of great things. So it's kind of crazy. Like, why didn't you guys put some money behind your guy, man? Like, the value that this guy.
I know the employees did. Like, they created they have a VC. The former employees created like a Palantir alum VC thing.
Yeah.
There are former Palantirians or hobbits or whatever you want to call them that have created stuff like that. But you're right in that Google was very smart in how they decided to restructure for innovation. And it is that classic innovator's dilemma where the only way you're going to get out of it is to acquire and grow that way. I think Palantir isn't quite there yet, but given how old they are as an organization, maybe some of the same problems kind of seep in. But to me, I think that you're right about the scalability problem, in the sense that no one can solve that for a large organization. And I think you're right in terms of the way that maybe they spark the innovation and growth is through this ability to acquire and to like pick up their own employees who can then build value. And what's interesting is, like, there are things that I want to build and that I know probably some of their former employees are building that could have a direct impact in Foundry, or you could actually build, like, take those apps and incorporate Foundry into them. So a good example of that would be like, hey, are you solving a real-time messaging scaling of data at the edge, like, so you could have scaled toward like really massive databases at the edge that leverage memory and let you connect to apps, and like use that as your in-memory data store for all your apps. Why is that powerful? Because then you could have like basically a transaction funnel that eventually gets into Foundry, and Foundry would process all your transactions and do all your data analytics, but you could have massive horizontal scale at the edge. Like, those are kind of things that former Palantirians can build and they could invest in and buy, that then benefit their core Foundry product. So it's like there's a lot of things they could do that would spark innovation and help them scale if they took that approach. I think so.
One of them is weird. It's Hex. Hex was actually a former Palantir engineer, but Snowflake Ventures.
I was on that podcast where you asked him that question, dude. That was really cool.
It was like, so it's to me, it's crazy that you have other venture capitalists, especially when your founders have their own venture capital arms, right?
Yeah, because Teal has funded Anduril. Founders Fund has,
Right,
even if
right.
Palantir hasn't.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Palantir right now has a ton of cash on their balance sheet, right?
Yeah,
They're
they
not
do.
doing anything with it. So my
But
thing would be,
a lot of startups fail. I mean, do you think it would be the best idea to
yeah,
like?
but think about it. You get an insight into your former employee. You know the technology, you know the energy, the drive that that person has. And if they're going to leave anyway because they want to do more and they want to do better, and you can't find a place for them in the company to give them the ability to run wild, dude, putting some money behind them could really here's an example. Oracle, right? Oracle had a lot of the founders from Snowflake were actually former Oracle employees who tried to do what they were doing. Well, guess what? They didn't get nearly the amount of support that they should have. They went out and they founded their own company, which is like a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, here's the thing. If you would have let them run in your org, you could have generated that value. But let's say they still wanted to leave. They wanted to be entrepreneurs. They had that entrepreneurial drive. Guess what? You could have invested a little bit of money into them, and they would have been huge for you later in the future. My thing is, a lot of these personalities that I've seen in Palantir, their employees, they have like this alpha personality where they're like the smartest people in the room. Everyone says that. They have a history of hiring some of the best engineers and the
They're
best
all
people.
really smart, but they don't have an
Yeah.
alpha personality. I mean, not
You
all
don't
of them.
think
Some
so?
of them do. Nah,
Yeah.
I met quite a few of them. I think they're all just. So my mom worked at the NSA, and she said that she would meet people at the NSA. You would just, you couldn't even, like, they're so fucking smart, you couldn't even talk to them. That's how smart they were. You know, like.
Mhm.
And my mom she's smart, dude. Like
Yeah.
this lady's ultra smart. She's a mathematician. And she would go there and just feel super intimidated, but you couldn't really, and like they would just look at you, like she would say, "Oh, these people are so smart." They just look at you and they're almost like staring past you, and they're thinking about things, and it's really hard to have a conversation.
So you're
But
saying
they have a lot of that kind of. They have engineers that are really, but then they have engineers who are really smart, but also product owners. Like they can run a team, run a product, run a small org, and interact with clients. You know, so there are a lot of different personalities in that group. But they are all really smart. I've gotten feedback from customers though that the interaction isn't positive in a lot of cases. You know, and I don't want to call it arrogance, but I think that they don't speak the same language as the customer in a lot of cases, and that causes friction. It's kind of like what I was talking about, where my mom would try to have a conversation with this person who's like the next Einstein, and you just can't do it, you know, because you're not at
so
that.
You're saying if I take out my phone to add 11 plus 9, they would not be impressed. These like, arrogant pricks would not be happy with me adding 11 plus 9.
It would just be like if you're using terms that they don't understand, because in their mind, like that's just too dumb, and they're using terms that you don't understand because they're too smart, then you don't communicate. You're just talking past each other, you know. Yeah. And I think that maybe there's some of that going on, but the conversations I've had with different customers, multiple customers at this point, I think it's mostly centers around that, and that is hard when you have maybe you only so like the engineer who's really smart that can also talk to a customer and run a team and do all like one of those for every 100, you know, and like so you can't get that person in front of every customer probably. But they have amazing people and they're all brilliant. I think it's just like the communication at the business level is where things might be break down.